Your hands. Go and take the vaccine. That is the strategy. We can't hold it down and put an eagle in your hand. If you get sick, you take that responsibility. There is an option. We have vaccines all over the place. We have sites all over the place. I don't hear one person complain that they can't get the vaccine anywhere. Go and get vaccinated. Argument done. No.
All right. Well, the rising crime rate and effects of the pandemic, among other issues in Jamaica, may be the reason why the Prime Minister sounds seemingly frustrated, and he has a right to be. There's a lot going on. But psychologist and management consultant Dr. Lekam Samaj tells us why he is advising the PM to take a break. And Doc joins us now. I heard this morning, Doc, welcome to the show, and I said to Dela, but if we lose the captain of the ship, what happens? And she said, well, they have a deputy. I'm thinking to myself, if the plane is crashing, is it the co-pilot that you want to kind of be in charge, or is it the pilot? So it's an interesting recommendation. Tell us a little bit about what you've observed to lead you to make this statement.
May I start by saying I did not make that recommendation?
Okay.
That is the danger of talking to reporters.
Okay. So
they extract what they want as a title. And remember, I learned years ago, I asked PJ Patterson, why is it you always read your speeches? And you're so eloquent. He says, early in my career, I was given a presentation and I made a side comment. And the next day, it was the headline in the newspaper. Mm-hmm. So, I understand that process. But
so
no.
you were misquoted, or you were taken out of context?
The phrasing was incorrect.
No, the first thing I said, when I was asked that question, the first thing I said, I could never answer a question like that because that would be interpreted as a political statement.
Gotcha.
Okay.
I can explain to you the relationship between stress and frustration and anger. And also, I went on to explain that in my interaction with senior police officers, it has been incredible how many of them pride themselves in never having taken a vacation.
Yes.
I say it's very important that from time to time one steps away. I mean, there are companies in the US, major companies, that insist that you take a break because you get new perspective. So I explained the whole context. So that was the nature of my discussion, even to the point when, the whole notion that persons really, when you're so close to something, without stepping back and looking at it broader, the frustration grows, and frustration leads to aggression. Aggression can be verbal, it can be physical, as we're seeing with the pandemic fatigue. Mm-hmm. But a statement like that would absolutely be interpreted as a political statement. I can only describe what I did say in my post. I would recommend more emotional intelligence training so that the way you say things, the emotional context of your statement, are not interpreted in a derogatory manner. And we all can benefit. Some time ago, we spoke about empathy.
Yes.
Delia, that wonderful conversation we had.
Yes.
And it's absolutely important for you to put yourself in the other person's perspective. How do you like to interpret your statement? Mm-hmm. So I went on to explain all of those things, but it makes for a nice headline, but no, that was not my statement.
I'm glad you got the opportunity to clarify it.
And in fact, this is the reason why I accepted this invitation. And I'm really going to have serious consideration. Do I talk to print journalists in the future? Because you run the risk of them taking your thing out of context. This is a live interaction. Mm-hmm. I can nuance my comments. We can discuss it. It's very hard for you to distort it after a live presentation. But I do understand. It's frustrating. It is stressful. It takes its toll on you when you're dealing with these things, but I would never make a recommendation. In fact, none of our prime ministers, I remember, ever have taken vacation. When have you ever heard a prime minister take a vacation? American presidents take vacation, but Jamaican prime ministers don't take vacation.
Okay, which largely informed my question this morning when I said to you, well then who, because it really is an odd concept. I don't think I've ever seen it for real. But okay, so having distilled that, Doc, and thank you for doing that.
I think we've had instances when the Prime Minister
has traveled
and
the deputy is in charge.
Right.
But on
Yeah.
vacation, I'm not
But
sure.
yeah, but then whenever you say, I'm going to take 2 weeks off and so isn't, no, they travel or they're sick or so on. But the notion of just a specific time, which I strongly recommend, no matter how busy you are, you know, in fact, in my line of work, it says you should meditate every day for at least 20 minutes, except when you're very busy. Then you need to meditate for 1 hour.
Yeah. But why shouldn't he take a vacation? Let me put that out, because it's a tough job. I mean, many of us may work 9 to 5, 8 to 4. A prime minister works 24 hours a day, whenever, always on call, always addressing something. And in the height of the pandemic, crime, and everything else, shouldn't it be okay if he says, listen, I need to just step back for a day or two and just process everything that's happening and come back again and take this on?
Excellent question. You realize the same kind of discourse came about when athletes were talking about mental health issues?
Yes.
In our culture, we frown on that. We see it as a sign of weakness. Even though it is important to maintain your strength. That's why we sleep. That's why as human beings, we have a diurnal cycle. You work, you rest. You work, you rest. So that it is very important that periodically one, step back from what you're doing to look at it from a distance and then come back with fresh eyes.
Yeah.
Let's talk about emotional intelligence,
yes.
Doc, because for the average person, I find it's extremely important. For leadership, it is critical.
It is again, in my line of work, there's a statement that says your IQ gets you hired, but your EQ gets you promoted.
Oh.
Right?
Your EQ is your, for those who don't
emotional
know,
intelligence.
Emotional intelligence.
Now, IQ is, you can't do a lot to change your IQ. It's fairly set in terms of your cognitive capabilities, but your emotional capabilities, it is something we learn and we can always adjust it. Whenever I do serious management training, I start with a personality profile and an emotional intelligence profile. And I measure about 20 different areas. And we look at your areas of strength and your areas of weaknesses, and then how you can tweak it. The minimum definition of emotional intelligence is knowing how people feel and what you should do about it.
Yeah.
So that you're able, you weigh your statements. And I'm sure Delia, both of you, but Delia, you as a writer, when you write a scene, you may write the words one way, but then when you read it back, you realize the emotional impact will be different. Either you need to turn it up or down. And similarly, when you when you have to play a part, when you have to do something, if I say it this way, now the dangers of life is that you have to say it, you just got one take.
Yeah.
But when we have the notion, my problem, I'm an INTJ, meaning that I'm an introvert. People wouldn't understand that, but I'm a thinker, right? The logic is more important than the feeling for me. But for me to compensate for that, what I do two things. I think about what it would feel like. That sounds paradoxical. If I say it this way, how would it feel? And the other thing, I make sure I have people around me who are strong feelers, who say, Doc, no, that not sound right. That not feel right. And this can be from every level, from my wife to my office attendant to my housekeeper. These are persons can come to you with more almost raw information feeling. No, you can't say it that way there.
Yeah.
But Doc, I find in this country, when I was in corporate, it's something people used to tell me, you're too vulnerable, and vulnerability is not a leadership strength. And so when you say you think about something and you think about how you will feel saying it or how it will be received, and just that notion of showing a kind of empathy and understanding and even emotion towards those with whom you work or those who you lead. Vulnerability is not a big encouraging management trait for a lot of our folks in Jamaica. And so when the PM addresses folks the other day at the church in Portmore at the prayer breakfast, I believe it is, and he gets emotional, and people are saying, "What to that brother here?" What? I mean, I looked at the comments on social and I was like, my gosh. You don't have that latitude as a leader in this country, despite what is going on, to show a sign of emotion, feeling, vulnerability, and that's a problem.
Absolutely. But listen, ladies, let's take it one step further. If a woman leader did any of those things, she would be tarred and feathered. The explanation, you see there now, that's why we don't want a woman in these kind of positions. Mm-hmm. Anyhow, a woman showed that level of, let's say, assertiveness, let's call it that, assertiveness or emotionalism. Hello, would I go with that? It would be a dangerous thing, whether in corporate or in politics.
Yeah.
So it is a learning situation for us to understand that, listen, emotions are real. Emotions are how you move people. One of this notion about, look, as a leader, when you can share with somebody, listen, I've been there. I have felt that feeling. That kind of disclosure, listen, where you've been, I've been there.
Yeah.
And I overcome it, and it can be done. When you talk to your troops and so on, and you show vulnerability, when you share your own issues of weakness and how you overcame it, is one of the most powerful ways to motivate your people.
That's where you get the greatest buy-in too.
That's where you get the buy-in. But boss, I never know, say you went through that too. I never knew. I mean, when people see me and talk about Dr. Samaj and so on, sometimes when I hear that introduction, I have to wonder if it's like a boy from, who born and grew below Torrington Bridge. And I used to many times to explain to people that, listen, you can do all kinds of things, because when you hear the outcome. Yeah. But emotion is how you really connect with people. But in our culture, we can use it as a weapon. Mm-hmm. And especially women, it is used, we need women in leadership because they naturally bring more emotional intelligence. More often than not, they do. But what a lot of women have had to do now is try to become like a man. Dress like man.
Oh gosh.
You have to come back. You have to come back. Because that's what I was about to say to you, but we don't have enough time. But that is a whole new discussion about women who, look, we have to get you back.
We have it so often.
Just allow me 10 seconds.
Yes.
The leadership of the COVID crisis, when I analyze it globally, the 7 countries that have the most effective leadership and the results to show for it, the 7 countries are all led by women. Chew on that.
So I'm asking today that we have Doc back next week, Tuesday, because this is a good girl power contextual discussion to have. And I think it's very, very, very important for so many women who are doing what they're doing and they're criticized every day and they feel like they have to take on these attributes because if they don't, they can't win. So Doc, I'm not producing, but I'm begging the producer for next week to give us that time. So
I'm begging Doc not to book anything in the morning next week.
Please don't book anything next week, Tuesday morning.
All right, Doc, great to see you as always.
We talk.
Thank you.
Peace.
Psychologist and management consultant, Dr. Leakim Samaj. After the break, achieving your health and weight loss goals.